Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm getting set up right now. I'm on a new machine, so I'm doing a bunch of technical setup at the moment, but come on in, say hi, let me know you're here. Right now, the first thing I'm checking is that my audio is going through correctly, which I think it is, so we're good there. And then now I'm checking that my YouTube chat is showing. It's not, but 3, 2, 1, here we go. All right, now it shows. Nice. Second, I'm checking if my keyboard shortcuts work. Okay, kind of works. It's a little broken right now. Let me fix that. And if you're here, just say, tell me what you're up to. If you're, when is your March SAT date, and what is your target score for the reading and writing? What is your March SAT date? Because everyone has, people in the States have different dates. And what is your target score for the reading and writing? Where's the, how do I fix this? Okay, I see it. Google Chrome. All right, and that works. Saldumar, what's up? Betstech, what's up? I'm chill. I got a bit of a cold, so maybe not the best time for a stream. 'Cause you might hear me sniffling a bit. My voice might sound a little weird. This cold has been pretty stubborn. It's been around for more than a week now, and I guess I'm probably just not sleeping enough. What's up, everyone? How is everyone? Go ahead and let me know what your target score is, and when is your March SAT date? What are we doing right now? Oh, right, that's what I was doing. Wait. All right, all right. I mean, that works. Cool. I think I'm basically done setting up. Audio is working. Audio is working. Video is working. Let's go. Do I do GMAT? I actually want to do GMAT. I actually had uh, I have a I had like a plan, but things didn't go according to plan. Um, uh, Dung Nguyen, can you remind me on the GMAT? Is every practice test adaptive, or are there static practice tests where everyone takes the same practice test with the same questions in the same order? Um, because I remember trying to do a GMAT once and being like, wait, where are the static practice tests? It's like if I take a practice test and the questions I receive are very different from your practice test, then those streams are not very useful to you. So I was wondering if you had any tips on how to enter the GMAT. So yeah, let me know. I am totally open to doing the GMAT. The reading on the GMAT and the grammar on the GMAT. I mean, and all of these tests have been changing recently, so I think it's a good time to go in and, you know, fuck shit up. So I'm happy to do that. Saldumar, what do I think is harder? Blue book practice test or real test? I mean, obviously, if I only factor in if I factor in the psychology aspect of it, then obviously the real test is harder. Like, it's just much more pressure, and there's so much more writing on it. So when you look at it statistically, people clearly do better on the blue book as a whole than they do on the real test. But it's not only the psychology, it's also because the blue book gets updated at a lag. So the real test kind of changes a little bit because they want to, they're kind of like co-evolving with people who are studying like super hard on the SAT. So in order to sort of evolve away and like build immunities against people who are overprepared, the SAT itself changes slightly, and then the Blue Book gets updated like half a year later. So there's always like a bit of a gap between the Blue Book and like the latest tests. And so sometimes people consider the Blue Book easier than the latest test, but that's mainly because they're like over optimizing for the existing practice tests. And so when they look at the real tests, they're getting thrown curveballs, but that's because they were so over optimizing for all the existing practice tests that they're not able to think on their feet, and then they kind of drop the ball whenever the question format changes like slightly. So that's why people think the real test is harder, and I believe that it feels harder when you get thrown curveballs and when you are psychologically damaged from having to be in the test center. But yeah, I think long answer, short, yes, the real test is harder. Expect the worst. If you expect the worst and you plan for the worst, then it can only get better from there. Dung Yuan is saying it's just a plan because you're thinking of doing an MBA later on. The EST guidebook, I don't know what the EST guidebook is. ETS guidebook, I assume. So the ETS guidebook, I'm sure, is the official resource, and that's probably where you should start. That makes sense. But I don't really know a lot about the GMAT right now because I kind of did a little bit of exploration there, but I didn't do, and I tutored one kid once, like a friend of mine. I tutored a friend, and then I kind of dropped that whole topic. But but yeah, if you start studying the GMAT and then you have ideas on how I could help, like, let me know. All right, guys, just want to let you know, if you are studying for the March SAT, it's coming up in 2 days. By the way, you might be able to hear some background noise. I live in an area where there's basically construction like 6 months out of the out of the year. It's not annoying. It's metaphorical. Okay? It has a metaphorical meaning. Outside of my house, they are building buildings that are tall, that will house commercial units and residential units and will make people productive. Well, inside this house, I am building buildings that will house little SAT test takers and GMAT test takers and other students of life, and it will make you productive. So that's what that is. It's the sound of building. So what sources do I use for vocabulary? Basically any list is good. If you find a list and you think, oh my God, I don't know these words, that's a good list. Okay, it's fine. Just do it. You don't have to analyze it. Just choose it and start. Like, don't wait a whole day to get validation from somebody else to do your vocab list. But actually, to answer your question, the source that I mostly use for vocabulary is the practice tests themselves. So I have a bunch of practice tests, and when I assign them to my students, I make them find the vocabulary in there, and then I make them self-study the vocabulary. I don't do the preparatory. The way I do my tutoring, I don't. Like, it's trivially easy for me to just make like 1,000-word vocab list, especially with AI. It's so easy to do that. But I actually think you learn better if you are forced to find your words yourself. So I make my students find the words themselves. I do have like a list. I think there's a Google search term. Hang on, let me find that. I forgot the name of the thing, so I have to find it now. I'm gonna switch windows for a sec so I can like go look for it. I have it somewhere. But I basically never use this list. I like don't actually use this list. I just have this list in case anybody asks me for a list, and I'm like, okay, here you go, a list. you know, um, give me a sec. Where's my work account? So yeah, recently I changed my machine, so it's kind of messing me up, but I'll be able to I'll find it in a second. Oops. All right. Here we go. Sesame words. So let me. Okay. Sesame words. Sesame words. Sesame words. Okay. Sesame words. Sesame words. Sesame words. And like this kind of question, sesame words or most important 1,000 words, honestly, it doesn't matter. Just study it. Who cares? Just study the words. But I'm telling you, I actually don't assign this to my students, okay? I make my students, okay, find the words in the passages themselves, and then I quiz them on those words. I just use the practice tests themselves. But if you just want to memorize vocab words, which is not bad, I mean, it's there can be a debate as to whether it's time effective or not, but it's not bad. So if you want to just memorize some words, who cares what the list is? Just get a list and start memorizing. Okay, stop analyzing to death which list you need to memorize. Just do all of them. Do every list in the world. It's okay. It's okay to improve your vocabulary. All right, so let's keep going. Dungyuan, I remember doing IELTS and SAT, and you were learning the vocab from the test. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Yeah. Yeah, it's debatable whether you need active learning of new words. I think especially with Asian education, there's a super strong emphasis on memorizing thousands of words. And so in Asian context, I kind of push back a little bit. Like, you don't have to do all of that. But then sometimes in like the American context, they like shit on memorizing words too much. It's like, you don't have to memorize any words. And I'm like, I mean, I don't agree with that either. Like, it's like important to know things, like the word appropriate, right? Sometimes you have to memorize the fact that appropriate can actually mean appropriate, which is a different pronunciation of the same word, but appropriate means to take over, right? And sometimes you just need to like learn that. So it's like, and things like biotic and abiotic, right? That's not going to necessarily come out in vocab lists, but you have to be able to see the word biotic and abiotic, and you have to be able to take that A in front as the neutralizer, right? And then be like, not biotic? And then what is biotic, right? And you have to be able to do that. And so it just helps sometimes to remember that biology means the study of life, so biotic means having to do with life. So like these are things that you should be able to say, and that comes from studying vocabulary, but yeah, there's a balance, okay? You should learn vocabulary, but you don't necessarily need to do, 20,000 words. But then simultaneously, you don't need to ask Saul Lee on the internet, like which list to study. Because if you start studying the list, you're going to realize that depends on your vocabulary level. If you have like awful vocabulary, you'll realize that out of that list, some of those words are just like way too hard for you. And just way too random. Like you've never seen those words ever in your life. And so you're like, wait, you'll start naturally losing motivation when a vocab list is like way too far out of your depth, right? And so you'll like drop that vocab list naturally. Whereas, if your vocab is like super high, then you might see the same list of really hard words, but you'll already know like 7 out of 10 of them. So then now you're just scooping up the other 3 out of 10. And that feels reasonable, right? And so you keep going on with it. So there's no real, like, the best vocab list for a person depends on the person. It doesn't really depend on just Saul Lee on the internet, So just start studying. Western media is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome for studying. And by the way, I think there are some other viewers in the stream. If you are here, just say hi. It's a small stream. It's a homie stream. Welcome to my little room. I'm reading that book right now, Infinite Jest. It's been 30 years since that book got published, because it was published in 1996. So yeah, so there it is. And say hi if you're here. Let me know what your March SAT date is, and let me know what your target score is if you are here for some SAT advice. Okay, but yeah, Western media consumption is great, especially if you're like a international student and you're not surrounded by English speakers. Like it's like I live in Korea. I've also lived in Vietnam for little short stretches. I've lived in Japan for 1 month. But sometimes it's just shocking. You'll see people who are so good at English and they never ever lived outside of Japan or Korea or Vietnam, and that's because of shows like Friends or like Big Bang Theory. Like they get so good at English. It's amazing. Mars, welcome to the stream. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the room. I changed this room maybe 2026 this year, but I haven't been doing a lot of streaming because, quick news, I'm getting married soon in the next couple months. Yeah, so I've been a little busy. I've been not very good at my future wife right now is winking at me from behind this camera. So she's just making funny faces at me right now. So I'm going to ignore her. Anyway, so yeah, so I've been a little busy. A lot of things to do, and I'm not a little overwhelmed. Betts is asking, did I like the University of Chicago? Is it actually very hard? Are the grades deflated? Well, you're asking me all those questions. You asked me 3 questions. One of them is in the past tense, so I can answer that confidently. 2 of them are in the present tense, so I actually cannot answer confidently because it's been many years since I graduated from the University of Chicago. But let me quickly answer all 3, okay? Did I like the University of Chicago? I did not. I fucking loved it. But that's because I am a total nerd. I'm a total nerd, and I enjoyed the grueling labor, the ascesis, the ascetic labor, the spiritual harrowing experience of like sitting over books and reading them and rereading them and then writing about it. So I loved it, and I loved how I was surrounded by a bunch of like other nerds with awful hygiene and awful social skills, and we would just like debate whatever was on our minds at the moment. So I personally loved it, but it definitely wasn't for everyone. I remember one of my friends, he's a really talented rapper from LA, and he needed more hip hop people around him. And he needed more witty and funny people who could like crack jokes with him. And U Chicago did not have enough of that kind of person. And so I think he suffered a bit, because U Chicago is not that kind of place. It's not. Chicago is much colder than LA, way colder than LA. So it's like, it's like, yeah. So some people don't enjoy it as much. So you gotta. But for me, it was like kind of the perfect fit. I was into U Chicago. I was into the liberal arts, the great books, all that stuff. The second question, is it actually very hard? I guess I don't know because I didn't graduate from multiple schools. I just graduated from the one school, but the reputations precede them. Other places do have much better grades than U Chicago. And historically speaking, there's a reason for that. U Chicago used to be a major feeder school into graduate programs. So a lot of U Chicago undergrads, they wouldn't go into consulting or law or whatever as much as they would go into, or finance. They would mostly, we had a large proportion of people just going into masters and PhDs. And so in those places, it's other academic institutions that are quote unquote hiring the undergraduates, right? So it's like Yale or Harvard or Stanford that's hiring the U Chicago undergraduate. And so when they are looking at the GPA, when they're looking at the candidate, they're not only thinking about the GPA, they already know that U Chicago is kind of like, grade deflated and all that stuff. So, and plus they have buddies, right? If I'm from the physics department in MIT, I will know people from this physics department from U Chicago. So it's like the sort of what do you call it? The recommendation letters, all that stuff matters much more. So the grade deflation was real, and in my time it was also real. But I also was such a nerd. I didn't care about grade deflation. I wasn't trying to go to big law. I wasn't trying to do all that stuff. So I let my grade deflate by taking hard classes on purpose. But there are people who go to med school, who wanted to go to med school. There are people who wanted to go to law school who were strategic about their school, their class selections, so that they can have the best grade possible. And hey, I mean, it worked for them. I mean, they went, I know lots of people who went to good. Plenty of U Chicago kids have great jobs. Do U Chicago kids on average make as much money as Harvard kids? Probably not. But that's also probably because U Chicago attracts the kind of kid who overall cares a little less about money and status than Harvard. You know what I mean? So I don't know. There's a bit of selection bias there. So yeah, I mean, you gotta, ultimately, it's not really, when you're choosing U Chicago, you're not choosing U Chicago because of grade inflation or grade deflation. You're choosing U Chicago because it matches you, and it matches the kind of future you envision for yourself. Okay, so that's where that's from. So I would say if you like intense academics, then go to U Chicago. If you don't, then maybe drop it down in your list. Okay, maybe it's not really for you. Suraj is saying 1490, 700, 790, time management, notes questions, really time mod 2. Okay, so the notes questions, let me quickly answer the micro question before I answer the macro question. With the micro question, I'm going to talk about the notes question. You might find, okay, this is really hard to say in like a 2-sentence version. But I'm trying to compress it, okay? Because this is a bit of a longer, because what I'm about to say is a little unintuitive, so it takes a while for me to explain it. But try to think of an analogy really quickly. So let's say that you are a high schooler who is generally athletic, okay? Like you've done a lot of running, you've done a lot of sprinting. Maybe you're like a soccer player, so you're very athletic, okay? Then let's say you do 1 week of basketball training just to learn how to pass and dribble and shoot, okay? You're athletic, you're a high school student, you had 1 week of basketball training, okay? Now let's say that you have to do a one-on-one against a sixth grader who loves basketball. Okay? Now, they love basketball, but you are way taller, way more powerful, way faster, and you can jump really high. Okay, so here's what happens. That sixth grader may have all the techniques in the world, and they might have perfect form, but because you're so overpowered, you will just dunk on the sixth grader. And what happens is, when you're dunking on the sixth grader, you get this. If you're sort of short short-sighted person, like you don't have long-term thinking, you don't have strategic thinking, and you're just sort of like responding immediately to what's in front of you, what is your emotional reaction? Your emotional reaction is, hell yeah, dude. Dunk, right? Like you're just like you're pwning this like little kid. And the thing is, when you do that, you're actually firing off the reward circuits in your brain to like to remind to train your brain to say this is good. You can just keep dunking, right? But the problem is, what you're now doing is you're teaching your brain to do something that would actually be very harmful in a team matchup at your level against other high school students who are athletic. Like that would train your brain to have awful habits, okay? Because you're getting rewarded for doing something that is so bad for your overall basketball form, okay, that you would be an awful basketball player if you kept going at it this way. Okay, and so what is this whole analogy about? It's about notes questions. With the notes questions, the online advice is to just don't read the notes. Read the writer's intention. Okay, the student wants to blah blah blah, and then read ABCD and match the one that matched the writer's intention. Okay, and that works. That works on maybe 6 out of 10 questions pretty smoothly, okay? Because 6 out of 10 of those questions are pretty basic. When I say basic, they are middle schoolers. They are rated at a difficulty level of like 450, 550, 600. You know, that's it. Okay, they're not rated at a difficulty level of 700. Or 670, okay? Because 6 out of 10 of them, you literally can just dunk on them. You don't even have to, you don't have to dribble well. You don't have to do anything well, okay? The problem is 2 out of 10 of them are a little bit more nitpicky. You have to kind of do a little bit more work. And then the other 2 out of 10 of them, okay, it's a trap. If you try to dunk, you're going to get blocked, okay? And the question is it worth sacrificing 2 out of 10 notes questions just so that you can keep dunking on these middle schoolers? And the answer is, well, it depends on your target score. If your target score is 650, it's fine. But if your target score is 700, it's not fine. If your target is 750, it's really bad. You cannot sacrifice those two. Okay, you have to have new habits now. And what is that habit? The habit is read the notes first. Okay, know what is true first. Then you read the student's intention. Then you predict, based on the facts that are in the notes, this is what the answer has to be. And then you find A, B, C, D, and you find the one that matches. Okay? And if you find the one that matches, now you're going to be 100% sure that it's factually true. Whereas if you don't do it that way, you're going to get all twisted up in your head about what is factually true, and then you're going to have to reread the bullet points over and over to double check that it's all factually true, and then you actually end up wasting more time on those questions. Okay. Now, true or false? If you resist the temptation to dunk on all these middle school students, okay? If you resist the temptation to just skip the bullet points, and you actually read all of the bullet points on all 10 questions, then on some of those questions, you're going to waste time. True or false, you will waste time on some of those questions. Okay, the answer is true. You will waste time on some of the easy questions when you read all the bullet points, because when you read all the bullet points, it will cost you maybe 10 additional seconds or whatever. Okay? On some of the easy questions, you're going to be losing 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds because you're reading all the bullet points. Now, second true or false question. True or false, you will lose time on all 10 out of 10 questions. True or false, you will lose time on all 10 out of 10 questions. Okay, the answer is depends, but probably false. Okay, even though you lose time on 6 out of 10 questions, you might actually save time on 10 out of 10 questions because you don't end up doing the insane double checking to make sure that everything is factually correct, because you are predicting and matching on all the questions now. Okay, so you can actually recover. Okay, you might be dropping 10 seconds here and there, but you actually might be able to recover 30 seconds, 45 seconds, just because you predicted and matched on 4 out of the other 10. Okay, so you actually can get that time back on 10 out of 10. Okay, so in is it statistics? In statistics or in kind of engineering context, there's something called the local optimum versus the global optimum. A lot of times you guys are going for the local optimum. You're just going for what's the easiest path right in front of you. But when you go for the easiest path that's right in front of you, you might actually be missing out on the easiest path at the macro level, okay? And the easiest path at the macro level, in my experience, is just predict and match. Read all of the bullets, read the student's intention, make a prediction, match, okay? If you do that, overall, you will win your time back. Okay, that was the micro question. The macro question is this. The macro question is, you're aiming for 750 and your main setback is time management. And the macro question, I mean, honestly, time management is a sort of beast of a problem, okay? It's not the same thing as just like, I can just teach you what a semicolon is right now in like 5 minutes. Well, I can teach it to you in like 30 seconds, but then with examples, 5 minutes. The problem with time management is that it's multi-headed beast. There's many aspects to it. But if I have to guess that you're going to suffer the most common problem, okay? The most common problem with time management is that you don't know when you're done with a question when the question is too hard for you. I'm going to say that again. You don't know when you're done with a question when the question is too hard for you. Let's start with the converse. You do know when you're done with a question when the question is too easy for you, or not too easy, not too hard for you, okay? I think that's a true statement that I think you guys basically all agree with. When a question is easy enough for you, you know when you're done because you choose the answer and you're like, oh, I'm done. Duh, you're moving on. That's not the problem. The problem is when a question is too hard for you, there's no clear idea of when you are done with that question. Because in your head, the definition of done is the same definition as for the easy questions. It's when you know that the answer is correct. But the problem is, for a hard question, how long does it take for you to know that the answer is correct? Well, it depends. It depends on you. But if you're 700 scoring and you want a 750, and one of those questions is sort of like 720 level question, the amount of time for you to be done with that 720 level question might be around 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, okay? Because you're scoring 700, but that doesn't mean intellectually you cannot solve the 720 level question. It just means that it takes a long time for you to solve the 720 level question, okay? But then again, let's go back. You are a 700 student, and now there's a 790 level question. How much time will it take you to lay down a correct answer? 2 minutes and 30 seconds? 3 minutes and 30 seconds? 5 minutes and 30 seconds? 9 minutes and 30 seconds with the dictionary? 9 minutes and 30 seconds with the dictionary with somebody helping you parse every single sentence and breaking it down into smaller sentences? Dude, there may be some questions on the test where you could spend 15 minutes on it and you still wouldn't get it, right? Because it's just so hard for you. If the definition of done for that question is the same definition of done for the question where the 650 rated question where you actually solved it in only 45 seconds, you're doing it wrong. You have to have a different definition of done. And so the problem is you haven't defined what is done when the question is too hard for you. What is the solution? The solution, well, I've already hinted what the solution isn't, okay? The solution isn't to say, oh, I'm done when I know the answer, because that's an awful definition of done, okay? You are done when you have performed a given checklist of actions, okay? So it's like, I don't know if any of you are sort of technically oriented, but when you want to troubleshoot like a networking error, like an internet error, you can turn on and off the Wi-Fi, okay? You can test one website, you can test another website, right? You can turn on and off your computer, right? You can go through a couple steps and then be like, okay, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, right? You can go through a sort of diagnostic checklist to figure out what the problem is with the internet, right? Same thing with hard questions. You go through a diagnostic checklist of actions that you perform, and then when you're done with that checklist, be like, all right, time to guess and move on. All right, and what is that? For me, in my classes, okay, I'll tell you just broadly speaking what I teach. Now, the nitty-gritty of how to actually implement it, that's on you now, unless you want to get tutoring from me, which is a separate conversation. But broad strokes, okay? For me, the steps are this. Map the passage, predict the answer, match. If you have no match, do process elimination, defend A once, defend B once, defend C once, defend D once. Do not defend two answer choices at the same time. Only defend one answer choice at any given time, straight through from start to finish. Do not jump midway through. Okay? Once you're done defending A and B and C and D, and if you are scoring below 650, you are done. This is the finish line. You move on. Okay? Now, if you're scoring above 650, it gets a little bit more gray area, and it depends on kind of your personality, but generally speaking, after 650 and certainly after 700, okay, you can allow yourself 2 more actions. The next action is re-predict, which means that you're kind of skimming over the passage and looking at the question prompt, and you're trying to remind yourself what is supposed to be the answer. That's re-predict. The next step after that is rematch. You take that prediction, you scan over ABCD one more time, and you try to see if anything pops out at you. After you do that, you're done, no matter what your score level is. Okay? No matter what your score level is, this is the end of the checklist. If you keep going beyond that checklist, do you know what happens? Well, first of all, most people actually crumble in the middle of this checklist. They actually start going from A to B to C to D to B to C to B to C to, let me double check, A to B to C to D to B to A to B to C to B, and they're already fucked, like completely fucked at this point. All right, you've already spent 3 minutes on a question that was like rated 720. You're not even trying to aim for a 720. You're trying to aim for a 680. You're fucked. Okay, but let's say that you get to this finish line. Okay, you did the re-predict, you did the rematch. If you don't stop here, you know what happens? You're going to just go back over B to C to B to C to B to C, okay? And you're done. You're ruining question. If that was question 8, you are ruining question 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 27. You're ruining all the other questions because you're spending too much time on question 8, okay? So go through your diagnostic checklist and then be done. All right, that's my macro answer. Dung Yuen, I don't know if you're still around, but also there might be some other people who have questions. I am going to wrap up in 15 minutes. So if you have questions here, guys, come say hi. I'm here. Okay. Let me know what your target score is for the March SAT. Also, let me know what your date is for the March SAT, and let me know what's on your mind. Okay. Let me know how I can help. Or if you don't need me to help, just say hi. Ding Yuan, research during your time. I mean, tempted to do research. What is tempted to do research? Hang on. That question by itself is a little funny because either you're going to study science, so you're definitely going to do research, or you're not going to study science, in which no one expects you to do scientific research. So I guess if you're tempted to do scientific research, then that sounds like you're not going to study science, but you just want to do scientific research on the side. So if that's your scenario, then I'm going to just say, dude, do you. You sound like a very intelligent person. And if you're an intelligent and curious person, and if you want to do scientific research at the university, the amazing thing about a university is that you're going to have the university card, right, the ID card, and you're going to have access to basically all of the facilities of the university. So you can just do whatever you want. So if you want to go in there and like study like, you know, you're like an English major, but you want to study like ancient, like paleontology, dude, just do it. Do it, man. No one's going to stop you. Show up. Actually, that's one of the things I used to do. I used to walk around the university and I would just notice like posters for various academic events. Like people in like the computer science department would have like an event and they would have a poster. And I'm not a comp sci major, but I would see the poster. And if I thought that the title was interesting, if I thought the lecture would be interesting, I would just go in. I was a books person, but I would go to any random event that I felt like, because who's going to stop you? They're not going to stop you. You can do whatever you want. That's the amazing thing about being a member of that university. So you should satisfy your curiosity. All right, so I'm going to dig around a bit, but while I'm digging around, since there's no questions, I'm going to just briefly say, I haven't been able to make the progress on this website and this course that I wanted to. So right now, this class has been kind of the same class since October. Okay, I'm just juggling too many things right now. But if you want to learn, okay, the techniques that I talk about, predict, match, what process of elimination actually looks like, what you're supposed to do step by step, right? If you want to like talk about those techniques in detail using the same vocabulary that I use, because I have much more technical vocabulary for this, okay? You can take this course for $30 a month, okay? And you can unsubscribe whenever you want. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. And you will learn the full, like you'll be able to define every move that I make on my streams. Like when I'm doing, when I'm looking at the passage and when I'm breaking it down, like that, that comes down to identifying transitions, identifying character threads, identifying character pairs, doing logic diagrams, doing logic chains, right? Building a table of characters and attributes, right? All of that, these are all terms to describe the moves that I make when I'm solving a test. And these moves that I'm making are happening in my head and they're happening really fast, right? But oftentimes, you didn't even know that that's a move because you don't have a name for that move. And so in my course, I teach you all the moves that I do. And in like these free streams, it's like people don't even know. A lot of people who watch these streams, they haven't even watched my SAT Solve live stream, so they don't even know what I'm doing, right? They're just asking me general questions. So if you want to go into like the nitty gritty of like how exactly it is that I'm making these predictions, okay, that's in my course. And if you join, let me know. You're going to join also the private Discord channel where we can chat about specific questions one by one in a group, okay? So that's the course. Now back to you. Where am I? What are my strategies to stay calm and collected even as time is going down? Actually, the thing is, the strategy for staying calm, of like taking deep breaths, like looking at the ceiling, whatever, right? All of those is helpful. But you know what the most helpful thing is? The most helpful thing is to know that you will always have time left over. If you know that you will always have time left over, then you will naturally be calm. And the question is, how can you change your behaviors such that you know that you always have time left over? And the answer to that, I've already shared it in the stream. If you limit your actions and you just perform the diagnostic only, and you do not do anything beyond the diagnostic checklist, right? You literally just do it one by one by one by one, and then you're done. And if you do that across all 27 questions in module 2 of a reading writing section, do it today, okay? Try the diagnostic list, okay, on all 27 questions of Module 2 on a reading writing section today. You'll be surprised that you actually have a lot more time left. And then you do it again tomorrow, and then you do it again. Well, we only have 2 days. But if you do it again and again and again, and you realize every single time you just did that thing that Saul Lee guy online said, right? And every single time you always had time left over, then you will naturally become calmer because you'll be like, oh, I don't have to rush. I can just do this thing over and over and over, and I will always have time left over. And then that now none of these like little, I don't know, like what do you call it? Like squeezing your toes, or you don't really have to worry about like your breath or your toes or your posture or or thinking positive thoughts or manifesting. You don't have to think about any of it because you already manifested having extra time all the time, right? So that is the true answer to staying calm. Deng Nguyen is saying econ, finance, MBA, research for masters. Well, I think your curiosity is getting kind of ahead of you. So here's what I would say. Betts is saying a very interesting thing, so I got slightly distracted, but let's go back to Deng. So Deng is saying, I think you're not in university yet, right? So when you go there, you're thinking about all the things you could do, and I am very much the same personality. I'm like, think about all the things I could do when I'm there. But the thing is, you don't really know what you could do when you're there until you go there. So my strong recommendation right now is the version of the thing that you think you're going to do in the future, just start doing it now. Okay, so if you want to do scientific research at the university in the future, start doing scientific research now. And what does that look like? That looks like getting access to some papers, maybe setting up like a personal notes management system, and start taking notes and start annotating the PDFs, and start doing that now. And when you start doing that now, you'll be the kind of person that naturally is studying finance at class, but is also doing scientific research for funsies after class, right? But if you are imagining what you could do in the future, then there's no guarantee that you're actually going to do it, right? So my recommendation, start now. Betts Tech, U Chicago, Duke. I mean, hey, it's valid because the math department at U Chicago was fucking intense, dude. Oh my god. So actually, there's a whole story about this, but I was such an arrogant little prick when I was your age. I was like, of course I'm going to go to U Chicago, and of course I'm going to do the honors calculus class, and of course I'm going to do the inquiry-based learning version of the honors calculus class, and I got creamed. I got wrecked. Because I was like a really smart kid for Nevada. I was not a really smart kid for U Chicago, and at least not in the math, right? I was not like, yes, I did Amy, right? But I didn't, qualify for like the Olympiads or anything like that. I was just like pretty good for, I was for Nevada, I was really good. But for the world, I was not really good. I was very behind compared to some of those kids. So I just remember, like, I never cried, but I was so close to crying at how hard it was to do IBL calculus, honors calculus at U Chicago. And there were just so many kids who were so smart at U Chicago and at math. And then I realized it was around like maybe November or October of my first semester, I was like, bro, I love math. Like, the amount that I love math is so much that I am probably in the top 1 percentile of people who love math. But I'm looking at these other people around me, and these fuckers, they love math more than me by like 3 times, 4 times. Because these people are in like the top 0.01 percentile of math lovers. And I'm like, I can't do this. This is not me. I have other things calling to me. I need to try literature. I need to try classes. I need to do other things. So I decided to not be a math major in my first semester at U Chicago. In retrospect, that probably the decision gating that I was using is probably not the best, right? Like, who cares if I'm not the 0.01%? Like, that's probably not a relevant metric for making a decision like that. But it was also true that I really, really, really wanted to like study the humanities. Like, it was a huge part of me choosing U Chicago. So so I naturally sort of let go of math and pivoted over to the humanities. Yeah, it's pretty small. It says Bachelor of Arts, the college, fundamentals, issues, and texts. And it's probably better to just fundamentals.uchicago.edu. So this is my Cornell West. Oh man, the staff is all different except Coin. Okay. Wow, things have changed. Things have changed. Yeah, so this was my major. So I'll read the general description. Working with the faculty advisor, they develop their own program of study, and we ask certain questions. How does telling a story shape a life? Is there a just war? As in, is there such a thing as a just war? Is the family a natural or is it a cultural institution? What is marriage? These are kind of similar. So that's actually not a great, I feel like I could rewrite this to make it better. So let me just say my version of it. For my major, it's kind of like, like world literature is kind of like, philosophy or classics. It could be kind of any major. It's kind of like make your own major. But the big defining features of my major is, number one, you have to have a question and you have to write an essay describing the question in your first year. And you submit this question and then you get accepted into the program. And you start this program in your second year. And then the second big defining feature of the program is you have to study that question through works of classic literature. So and it doesn't have to be literature in the sense of like fiction and poetry. It could be any kind of literature. But if you look at my CV, my transcript, okay, my classes are not named things like epistemology. They're not named the Victorian novel. They're not named 21st century or like 20th century Chicano movement. They're not named by topics, okay? If you look at my transcript, my courses are named Genesis, Exodus, Brothers Karamazov, Infinite Jest theoretically, although that didn't exist at the time, Plato's Republic. What did I do? I did Jerusalem Delivered, the Iliad, right? So the names of the courses are literally the names of like works, and the entire course, a lot of these courses, you actually do two read-throughs. You do a fast read-through, which is like the typical survey read-through that you would do in a normal class, and then you do a slow read-through of the same book. Like every week, you're just doing like a full essay or like a full attack on like a single chapter, and you do like a slow read-through with the class. So fundamentals was sort of a unique program. So that was my major. Let's go back. PhD for math. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great, math places. So it's not just Chicago and Duke, right? So yeah, keep your options open. And the most important thing right now is just to do good in front of you, right? Just to be a good researcher, be a good student, make the people around you. This means not just your professors, right, but also your colleagues, the grad students that you bump into. Just enjoy your time with them and make them, and just be a good person to them. And then you're not only going to develop like a list of people who can recommend you, you're going to develop people who can just help you through life, right? Through academic life, through non-academic life. And by having good relationships with the people around you, you're going to be able to like bounce off ideas off of them, and then you can commiserate about how AI is taking all the hard, how AI is making math research trivial, and you can cry and you can drink some beers, and then you can go to trivia night and you can play Pathfinder, So it's just, I don't know, like you can. But you gotta, those relationships will last. So be good to people around you, make good relationships. All right, I gotta go. Looks like not a lot of people had SAT questions, but if that's because you felt awkward about asking SAT questions, don't. And if you still have questions you want to ask me, you can ask the community, okay, in the Discord server. It's been relatively slow these days because I've not been very active outside of Discord. And so if I'm not active outside of Discord, then people don't come into Discord. And if people don't come into Discord, then there's not a lot of questions. But if you come into Discord, I actually am active in Discord. I check it every day. So you can ask me questions there. You can talk to each other there. And then whenever I have time, I'll go and I'll share my 2 cents, okay? So that's Discord. And again, one more time, if you want to learn to like specifically do the specific things that I do when I'm solving a test, and like, how the hell did Saul come up with that prediction? Like there's a bunch of other mini techniques that go into coming up with a prediction, right? I have a course that like details every single thing that I do, right? So you can learn those same moves that I make through this course. It's $30 a month. I think it's more worth it than a bunch of these other courses, and it'll help you break through your plateau on the reading and writing. But obviously, March SAT. In the future, we're going to have the May SAT. We're going to have the June SAT. So, hey, good luck on the March SAT, and hope you do well. Suraj is asking, is the question bank custom questions? Actually, that's the thing I need to work on right now. Right now, there is no full question bank for the course. That is a big drawback of the course. The course is mostly about the ideas of the techniques and how you're supposed to apply them. And the example questions are all from the SSQB. Okay, so the example questions are Blue Book questions because the Blue Book questions are clean questions. So it's really a theory course right now. The practice part of the course is something I have to develop, and I will develop very, very soon. It's just that I've been kind of behind because of the wedding and because of other parts of my life just going haywire. But I will be developing. Actually, I should probably commit to developing the practice part of the course before the June SAT. So it will come up. It's like a really high priority task for me, okay? But right now it's not ready. So to answer your question, there is basically no question bank in the course. All right. Guys, I got to go, but thanks for all the questions. And if, again, like I said, if you have more questions, you can chat with me in Discord. Until next time, keep on learning. Keep on growing, and yeah, it was really pleasant to do a stream. It's been a while since I've done a stream, so I'll try to plan another one in the coming weeks. All right, good luck with the March SAT, everyone. Peace out.